Hi everyone, from me, Brent Graham, for this special midweek edition. Well, midweek, perhaps the wrong word, but certainly not the usual day for the handicap. We're having it on a Wednesday night at 8 o'clock instead of a Thursday at 9. And there's two reasons for that. One of them is there's really no rugby this weekend that we can talk about, or at least none that I've seen. But we do have under 20 World Championship rugby. We've got Matchday number 2. And we got all the betting on that coming up in the next few minutes. So we're going to be talking about that. Before I get into the show, just a couple of quick reminders. Our live Hollywood Bets Durban July show, that is at 9 o'clock tonight. So that's within the hour. So do make sure you stay tuned for that. We're going to have a few betting vouchers up for grabs there as well. And then, of course, stay close to Good for the Game over the weekend. We've got big Durban July coverage. But let's introduce our guest first, and it's at Jackal for Life on Twitter. Storm as your lekkerdung. It's Allan Schulz. Allan, great to have you on the show, mate. You're looking good there, looking ready to chat a little bit of under 20 rugby.
Yeah, Brent, thanks for having me. I've threatened to come on a few times and finally got over stage fright. So yeah, let's looking forward to having a chat about things that I saw on Saturday. I was lucky enough to I did 2 stops. I was at Paarl Gym first and then went to the Donny Craven. So yeah, some good rugby, and I think this is, a lot of the consensus I got in just talking to people at both venues was how open this competition is this year. Normally you sort of go into it with France or England. They had a spell of dominating, and then the All Blacks, perennial winners and what have you. Springboks often flatter to deceive and love sort of coming third. But yeah, I think with a lot closer than usual 6 nations this year, the Northern Hemisphere sides all look pretty well prepared. And I think maybe the Southern Hemisphere are struggling. Let's just hope it's not sort of a precursor for the World Cup, with I think a lot of people backing Ireland and France for the main World Cup in September. So yeah, let's get stuck in, eh?
Yeah, well, Farid just asking if I got the betting file. He said, Farid, I did. I've just had a bit of a crazy day. Durban, July, and Tour de France week is a bit hectic for us. I haven't had a chance to look properly at it yet, but yes, I did. But look forward to getting your bets there. And welcome to all the boys who are joining us there in the live chat. And Allan, look, before we get into it as well, I know you do a lot of blogs. I had to be careful how I worded the description, because at first I wrote it that you're passionate about schoolboys, and then I should have said, no, you're passionate about schoolboy rugby. Because, I get your blog each week or so during the schoolboy season, and you preview the big schoolboy, the big clashes, and you review some of them as well. And I put a link down below. If guys want to subscribe to your blog, they can obviously go onto your Twitter handle as well. You're passionate about that, and that, I suppose, leads you into this under 20 championships as well. But is it something you're hoping to make a career of?
Yeah, thanks, Brent, for the plug. If Oaks are bored, then Thursdays or Fridays I normally send out a preview of the weekend's big schoolboy games coming up. Living in the Western Cape, obviously, I'm lucky that I get to see most of the better schools here. And yeah, then normally I do a review and of a certain game I'll pick on the weekend, and then just some general thoughts. Been at the Grand Coma week this week at Boland Landbou the last 2 days. It's a day off today, and then the final games are tomorrow. So that's effectively the under 16 Craven week. So that's been really, really good to see. I think everyone knows here who watches rugby how much talent we have, and it's frightening to see. Not like the size even of the under 16 Oaks now. I mean, it's crazy. And then off to George on Sunday for Craven Week next week. So yeah, I do freelance sort of rugby writing and that sort of thing, freelance analysis, and yeah, so would like to sort of get into that, maybe even sort of scouting, recruitment, and things like that. So yeah, it's a big focus on junior rugby really, and then it kind of leads into the under 20s.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I must say it's a great place is to spend your time by the side of the rugby field. I know you're not a massive punter. You do follow the betting side quite a bit, though. I just want to run through the outright betting. Yeah, France currently 9-4 favourites. So they have firmed in. They were sort of joint favourites with South Africa up front. They firmed in after their big win. You get South Africa 3-1, New Zealand 4-1, Ireland 6-1. Ireland, of course, drawing with England in their opener. Australia 7-1, England 9-1. Argentina 20s, and then, of course, 150 to 1 the balance. But just having a look at it from your point of view, there's anything that jumps out to you that either says, hey, the bookies are a bit big on this team, or hold on a sec, they look a little bit short. This team have got a long way to go before they can win it. Anything that jumps out to you there?
Yeah, I think maybe unpatriotically, I think us being second favourites is very generous. It's not often, as I said, I was at Donny Craven on Saturday, and it's very seldom, you get through a game there without having a beer. And after 45 minutes, I actually wish I had more. And after 55 minutes, I wish I stood in the beer tent queue rather than watching the game, because it was a pretty tough watch. It seemed like it was just scrum after reset after scrum after reset. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, our attacking shape didn't impress me really. And I thought, if there's one thing we would do is we normally at under 20 level, we're just bigger than everyone. So we just bully them. But I mean, it was Georgia, and they, if there was one thing they hang their hat on, it's their physicality. But still, I thought we got dominated second half in the scrums. I think Lavagna coming in at loosehead will shore that up a bit. We've got a bigger back row as well. But yeah, I think there's a long way to go for us. Just, if you just look at all the other sides playing, you look at the England-Ireland game, which I was at, just the speed of the game. And you look at us, I mean, it was just pedestrian, really. So, yeah, I think we've got a long way to go, and are perhaps helped by quite a favourable pool. But yeah, we might come unstuck against the bigger sides. Again, you've got to caveat some of those first results with, events that happen in the game, like, Argentina sort
Italy,
of
the red.
Yeah, they pumped Italy, but I mean, Italy had that early red, and so having had a good or decent Six Nations for them, to go down so badly to Argentina was perhaps a surprise. And then Ireland, England. I mean, England go in having lost to Georgia, and Ireland, consecutive Grand Slam champions, and they threw it away, really. I mean, they were leading comfortably with the last 10. Prendergast, he's probably the best player, the biggest star in the tournament. And whilst he scored a try, I mean, his kicking for poles was atrocious. He left, I think it was 8 or 10 points out there, which obviously would have given them the win. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I think the Australia-Ireland game tomorrow is really interesting in that I think that'll be quite a high-scoring game. It'll be the first game of the day. So with the rain that's coming to Paarl and it's been falling in Paarl, they'll have the best of the conditions. And yeah, I think both sides will look to give it a bit of a go. I mean, that's the only way Australia can really play.
We'll go through. I'll stop you there, Al, just because we'll go through that game now. I just want to touch quickly on the outright betting before we move on to the matches. I think France 9-4 a decent price. I don't see anyone stopping France winning this tournament personally. I'm quite happy to take them at 9-4. I agree with you. SA to me, perhaps a little short of 3-1. New Zealand, by definition, if I like France, I obviously don't like New Zealand. I wouldn't be taking the 4-1 New Zealand. Ireland certainly big runners. I see someone on the Good for the Game forum said, how about an Ireland-France final, which was priced at about 7-1, if I remember correctly. I certainly wouldn't argue with that. Australia, I haven't seen enough of them yet. I didn't get to see their game against Fiji, where they only won by 9. England, yeah, I prefer Ireland and to come out on top in that group. And then for me, Argentina, and I'm interested to know what Henrik thinks about Argentina. He's in the live chat there, because I think the Boks will get past Italy, but I think Argentina is going to be a big one. Yes, they played against a team that got a red card, but for me, if I'm going to take bets at this stage, I'm going 9-4 France to win, and my cover bet is actually Argentina at 20-1. You can't do a lot of harm at that price. But Al, let's get into the games themselves. And starting exactly with that first game. Now, Alan, I can tell you from a betting perspective here, the bookmakers priced this as an even game to start with. I actually handicapped it Ireland -4.5, -5.5. So the line has pretty much moved where I thought it would. So we got Ireland here, 5-6 point favorites for this game. What do you make of this one? You reckon we could get some points in this one, eh?
Yeah, I think so. We were just chatting beforehand. The thing is with, they talk about a lot of rain and stuff, and, everyone would have, I reckon a lot of people would have seen those pictures from Paul Ross's ground, which was, a complete mud bath a few weeks back. But the thing is with the Donny Craven and even to a lesser extent the Paarl Gym ground, it's quite well grassed. So whilst in the corners of the Paarl Gym fields is quite muddy, you'd see when the England wing or the replacement wing, he scored those 2 tries in the corner. He was full of mud. In the corners, it's really muddy, but
Yes.
the rest of the field is quite well grassed. So, I think the Darnie Craven will be fine. It will never really be a mud bath. It might just be a bit slower than normal. And I think the same with Paarl, really. Whilst I think another thing that's been clear with the team announcements is guys have rotated quite a lot, pretty much all the teams, really. And I was just interested to see in the Irish team that they've kept, their very good flank, that Quinn, who I thought played really well on the weekend, and then 9 and 10, that Gunn was man of the match. He's got, his box kicks are brilliant. And Prendergast is, as I say, he's probably the one like star player next to maybe that, as you know, from France, that scrum off. So, their 3 main guys are still in situ. So, yeah, I think Ireland are probably right at about that. As I say, I think it could be quite close though. Just Ireland might be lacking a bit of confidence, drawing surprisingly to England, and the Aussies might still be living off that win over New Zealand a few weeks ago.
Right, yeah. I must say, I think this is also well capped. I'll be having a look at the points lines. If pressed, I would be taking the Irish. I saw enough of them against England to suggest that they could probably take this Australian side, but at the same time, it was a bit disappointing the way they let it come in for a draw. But we'll move on to the next game, Al. Here we got a big one, France minus 11.5 against New Zealand. I mean, you talk about tough groups. With the format of this tournament, this is a very, very tough group, because you'd fancy that, the loser of this game potentially is going to battle to make it. Now, this line opened France minus 4.5. I handicapped it at minus 9.5. So no surprise for me to see the money coming for the French here. And yeah, 11.5. I mean, normally, if you see France or New Zealand against anyone, double-digit underdogs, you'd normally say take New Zealand. But I'll tell you straight up here, I'm saying France are going to absolutely hammer them tomorrow. That's my view. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, especially in that first, so I left at about 55 minutes of the New Zealand game, and then only watched the highlights of the end just to get to the Darnie. But yeah, I mean, it was incredible how Wales dominated them up front. And I mean, Wales locks are quite big, but the rest of them aren't that big. But I think what was noticeable was how perhaps undersized that All Black 8 are. And I mean, those French oaks are huge, and the guys off the bench are just as big and more athletic even. The Kiwis have got a lot of sevens players and things like that. But no, this French side looks huge. And then obviously the big difference maker that they're going to have is that huge Tuilangi, that 150 kilogram locks in. So, I mean, I think he's going to absolutely steamroll some Oaks tomorrow. So yeah, I think this French team just looks too good and too big. I mean, they've got big centers, running against the All Blacks, and they should get a lot of ball, to be honest. I think their lineup will be better and their scrum will be stronger. And, if the weather does take a turn for the worse, the French can just sort of go to their scrum and win penalties and maul them. So, yeah, I think they could be in for, the All Blacks could be in for a real shock tomorrow.
Well, Mark Dunphy saying France minus 11.5, no way. Now, Mark, I just want you to clarify that statement. Is it no way the minus 11.5 is a gift, or there's no way they should be such big favourites? Fareed saying cap is too big, but France will win. Yeah, fair enough. I would like to have got the minus 4.5. Unfortunately, I didn't get involved early, and it was only 3 points on Paddy Power this morning. He hasn't checked since. Mark, I think you'll find that line has definitely moved. So we got an interesting one there. That'll be probably. I'm actually not going to get too involved. I'm not going to get that involved in the handicap. I'm going to have a big solid play on France to win the tournament at 9-4, and obviously I'll need them to beat New Zealand to do that. So I'll be in the French cap. I won't be getting too involved on the handicap. Now, Alan, us betting guys, we get a bit nervous when we get these big handicaps. Now, we've got Wales against Japan. Wales, I think it's fair to say, punched above where most punters expected them to in the first leg. And where's Japan? They were 30-point underdogs against France, and I think they lost by 63 or something along those lines. What do you make of this? Is there any chance Japan can improve and challenge Wales here?
No, look, again, it's difficult, for them in their first game playing against, I think, the team that are the best, so they were always likely to take a hiding. But yeah, to lose that badly in the first game, and then they look at the Wales side who only just lost to New Zealand, they're probably shitting themselves already for this game. But yeah, 25 is it is quite a big points line. So yeah, I mean, I just don't see how Japan can sort of turn it into an arm wrestle, and keep the score down. Wales have got big centres. Their scrum half's really good. He got capped for the Scarlets in the URC already, and they've got, as I say, they've got some power up front as well, which they can maul them for days if they want. So yeah, I would also be perhaps nervous on that. Also around the rain and that sort of thing, if it does get a bit slippery, and Wales also, they could get greedy, white line fever and things like that, and throw chances away.
Yeah, those big caps that are big. And I'm just going to bring Henrik's comment up here because I know what he's getting at here. He says the Wales minus is too big because they didn't, well, I'll use the word, they didn't play a good team first up, and they played, of course, the baby Blacks there. But Henrik's point is a good one there in the sense that if the All Blacks get hammered by France, then you've got to look at it and say, sure, but maybe Wales's performance wasn't as good as everyone thought, and in which case perhaps Japan can come in. And you mentioned the arm wrestle. I guess the problem for Japan as well is, as much as they probably want to slow things down, it doesn't really suit their natural game either. They kind of normally a team, or you'd normally picture a Japanese team running. So this looks a dangerous handicap for me. Probably better bets on the cards, although Farid coming in here, and he's saying Wales minus 25.5 is free money, should win by 40. So a bit of confidence there from Farid. Right, let's get into the next game, Alan. This is, of course, the one with South Africa. Cap opened, I believe, 20.5. It's come in a little bit. South Africa have made quite a few changes. And first of all, what do you think of those? I mean, the fly half who was, I think, the man of the match, it was a John Smith on Saturday. He's not in the squad. Obviously, South Africa using the opportunity to rotate, but that can backfire on you badly as well.
Yeah, I mean, he had an unbelievable. I don't think he missed the kick, did he?
I don't think so. Yeah, he kicked them all.
So, I mean, he kept us ticking, and with Francis coming in his place, I mean, I've seen a bit of him for the Lions under 20, and having gone to St Andrews and Grahamstown, they typically like to play a bit like Bishop, so that he's going to be a running fly off. His kicking was actually good in the comp though, in the under 20 comp, and I think what they might do if it does, hopefully they don't have to do this, but if they do start struggling, they might bring Imad Khan on. I mean, he kicks for Province, and he's generally quite a good goal kicker if Francis struggles there. But yeah, there are a lot of changes. As I said, I think Lavagna will shore up the scrum a bit, as well as Wessels, the lock coming in. He's a massive guy also plays for the Lions. The two loose forwards that have come in, Potgieter and Beerts, they're also quite big ball carriers. So yeah, I think the thing is with this side, Brent, especially the South African team, I think we have quite a disadvantage when you look at, the European sides. They have an under, Six Nations comp where Oaks play.
They play a lot more together, hey?
And, they played in that a full comp last year as well. Whereas a lot of these guys are sort of COVID kids, really. They missed, they would have been, a lot of them would have been in matric in 2021, so they would have played, 3 or 4 games. So a lot of the side are sort of guys who have been identified by, in EPD squads and things. They haven't really played, massive big games of rugby yet. So, a lot of them were identified as talents when they were, spoon-fed at school level. So, yeah, it'll be, this is a big test. And I think that's what you saw on Saturday, to be honest. I think the Oaks were really nervous, playing in their first. A lot of these Oaks would have been, even though the crowd wasn't huge, it would have been the biggest crowd a lot of them would have played in front of. So, yeah, I think the nerves, probably a good one to get out the way, against a tough Georgian team to win, not let them get a bonus point. But yeah, this side I'll be interested to see Bester on the bench. A lot of guys have spoken about him as a generational talent, although only under 19. I think he's really good, and to be honest, I think him and Marcus, the 12, would complement each other well. They're both under 19. Marcus is a short, small guy who, smashes it up hits crash ball, and Bester is very good distributor and got good gas at 13. So they could form a mean combination if Letebele comes off, although, Letebele is a vice captain, so they may keep him on for the duration. But yeah, I don't see us struggling there, but 18.5, yeah.
High.
I think it is perhaps hard, because if one of the two fields is going to get muddy, it would be the Paarl Gym field, where they play at 4, and by then will have been quite a lot of rain there. But it is. I actually just got a notification today that the tickets are sold out, so it'll be a cool vibe there. It's a very lekker stadium to watch, because you're right on top of the action. You can hear and feel the hits. So yeah, it's a hell of a thing. I actually was sort of right in front of the action when that Irish wing headbutted in trying to tackle the English wing when he got his red. So yeah, that was quite a thing to see. But yeah, I think maybe 18.5. Yeah, it sounds stupid, but yeah, I don't know. I think our guys will just, again, like they did against Georgia, just play to win. Not try and break points records.
Setting up a big decider potentially against Argentina, who are -8.5 against Georgia. Now, there has been some line movement here. Open -14.5. I kept this game at 15.5. So I don't know if there's anything to do with team news here. But yes, Argentina played against 14 men, but I was impressed by what I saw of them against Italy. Georgia did pretty well against South Africa. Let's face it, they beat the handicap there. But I think that Argentina personally have got the ability to take this game away and win it on the minus there. What's your views on this one, Alan? Is this going to be a tight one?
Yeah, I think it could be. I think both teams will probably really look to rely on their forwards. I think it could be a hell of a battle up front. Georgia at every opportunity they had, they slowed the game down. Their one prop was basically getting a Thai massage there during the game, which was something
Yes.
something to see. And yeah, every time that there was any stop and play, one of the Oaks would go down. So they weren't looking to speed it up. And against Argentina, I doubt they'll look to do anything different, really. Yeah, I think having seen some of that RG side, they scored some nice tries there. So yeah, I think they're probably more skilled than the Georgian side would be. So yeah, that spread's probably about right. I think they'd win by more than a converted try. Yeah.
For Farida's going for Georgia there. Henrik is going for Argentina. So Henrik and I aligned on this one. We both like the Argentines. But yeah, let's see. I think once again, you want to have a look at how Italy go. I don't know if these games are overlap, but sort of, for example, how did Italy go against South Africa? That might tell you a little bit more about Argentina's performance and, for that matter, Georgia's. One game left to get through. Just a reminder, we got the Durban July preview up live at 9 o'clock. You don't want to miss that. Two of the better guys out there, Jason Dedegan and Southpaw, talking to me about the Durban July. Right, we got England here, -16.5 against Fiji, Alan. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see Fiji play, but they gave Australia, from what I understand, it was a 9-point margin, but they gave them a bit of a scare. I was seeing some tweets at one point that Australia might be in a little bit of a trouble. And you've got England here, of course, are going to have to press for a big win, because the way this group is looking at the moment, it is the sort of group that could come down to points difference, especially with that draw between England and Ireland. If they both beat Australia, for example, then it'll be important to put up a big performance against Fiji. What do you think here? 16.5, is it too big?
Yeah, I think that's actually such a good point you make around the points difference, especially qualifying for the next round. The advantage England obviously have is that they'll be able to see Ireland and Australia play at 11 and they only play at 7, so they'll definitely watch that game. And then they'll kind of know what they'll need to do, whether a win will be enough or if they need to back themselves and run it. They've also made a hell of a lot of changes. They've left out their captain, big flank, and the 8 aren't playing, although the flank's on the bench. Their good tight head is also on the bench. And then the scrum half who started, Kieran Bracken's son, he's also on the bench. So, yeah, they made a lot of changes, especially up front. Their pack's probably has a bit less power than it had against Ireland, but I think they know against Fiji. Fiji just run it, right? That Aussie Fiji game was always going to be high scoring. Both teams want to run it, but at the risk of stereotyping Fiji, you could just see with 15 minutes to go, they were stuffed. Guys kept on going down with cramp and things like that. So Fiji will always be competitive for an hour, is my view. At this level, and perhaps even to a less extent at senior level, and then they sort of may fall away. England will have a really strong bench to call on to, up the ante if they are in trouble or if they need to get points. So, I can see them dominating them up front, and I think their defense is pretty solid. Although in saying that they did concede 34 points to Ireland, but I think Fiji just play, they play carefree rugby, and I think England will be too good for them. Their kicking game will be too good. So, I think, England could beat that spread, I think, perhaps.
I quite like the English there as well. And just another angle, it's not a bet I take that often, but just listening to you talking about the English bench and that would be something like England halftime handicap. You probably get something like -9.5 on England halftime handicaps. In other words, to win, not halftime handicap, the second half handicap. So in other words, England to win the second half by double figures, because I could see Fiji blowing out and England pulling away clear and getting a good points difference. So lots of opportunities there. Allan, if you had to pick one game, that you're only allowed to watch one game tomorrow, which of the 6 matches would you pick?
Oh, I'd watch France giving New Zealand 50. I'm recording it as well, so I can watch it every day of the week next week as well.
Excellent. And as a betting man, is there anything that we looked at which would stand out for you, perhaps as one of the better bets? Unfortunately, we don't have points lines. I think bookies are waiting to see what the conditions are going to look like tomorrow, even though, as Hendrik pointed out earlier on the show, the rain didn't make much difference for the boys last week, but eventually accumulation of rain and wear and tear on the pitch might make a difference. So anything stand out for you? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think just on the outright, Brent, I think having seen that, having not really looked at the outright bets yet, I think I'm going to put a decent amount on France to win the thing. I think that's, I just can't see any of these other sides being anywhere near as good or as clinical as them.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. But Allan, it's been great. Just a reminder to guys, if you want to get Allan's blog, he blogs a lot about schoolboy rugby. You can go there. There's a link down below in the box there for that. And then, I've got a quick turnaround, and then I'll be back in position for the Durban July preview. We got 500 Rand Hollywood bet vouchers to give away there. And also, of course, going to be getting some tips from the guys who consistently do well in races like the Durban July. Thanks very much to the lads who joined us in the live chat. And then I guess this must be one of your mates, Darren Corky, says, Allan, old grey legend, hope you well.
Yeah, I think he's talking more about the old grey pub, Brent. But I remember Darren. His service was always impeccable, huh?
Oh, yeah, old grey pub. Excellent. Well, I'm sure you found quite a few pubs down there in Cape Town as well. Allan, it's been great having you on the show. We certainly get you involved again, hopefully this competition. And also, I know you like your European rugby. You're a big Exeter Chiefs fan. So, hopefully get you on board with some of the Heineken Champions Cup or something like that in the future, and perhaps even a bit of World Cup. Because just for one final thing, and I know Hendrik will enjoy this, you are going over to the World Cup.
Yeah, I'm going over for the first 2 weeks. Going to watch the France-New Zealand opening game, which should be fairly spicy, and then watching the box against Scotland and Romania, and then spending a week in Toulon as well, which shouldn't be too bad.
Ah, what a pleasure. What a pleasure. Excellent. That's at Jackal for Life. Thanks very much, everyone. Look forward to seeing some of you, hopefully most of you, in about half an hour for the Durban July show.